So, I just wanted to, wanted to talk to you about the different, vocal, okay, so who's squirming right now?
Me?
What did I do that's pretty much the audience's worst nightmare?
You copied my speeches.
Tons of filler words.
Yes, lots of filler words, and that is something that I've noticed is a big problem with myself, and I think that it's something that everybody needs to work on. We're past the novice stage, as we've discussed, we're in the public speaking advanced class, but we still need work on improving these filler terms and replacing them with intelligent and powerful words. So by making just these minor changes to vocal delivery, we can increase our credibility, we can engross the audience in our message, and most importantly, we can get the important parts of our message that we want to convey across to the audience. And I'm going to present two strategies for you. First, we're going to avoid the filler terms, and then we're going to utilize the power of voice and replace those annoying filler terms with more powerful wording. First, to avoid fillers, I've come up with 3 P's: preparation, practice, and pauses. Now, preparation, a New York Times article by Matt Viano called "Recovering a Fumble at the Flip Chart" says that perhaps the worst blunder an employee can commit during a presentation is displaying an egregious lack of preparation. They go on to quote somebody who is the president of a business coaching and consulting company. Her name is Carla Robertson. She says that most people think they can just wing it, but when it comes to a presentation, you have to do your homework. And I know that most of us in here have felt like, oh, I can just wing it, it'll be fine. And we have seen the result at the end of our speech, and we're not satisfied with it. Second is to practice, and I remember one time Kelly was talking about that her brain can't keep up with her mouth if she doesn't practice. And I think that that's a problem that most people have, is that they want to talk really, really fast, and you kind of just want to get your speech over with. But if you practice, then you can find a rate of speaking that syncs together well, and you can have your mouth think as fast as your brain, because you're forcing your brain to think slower. And I was just thinking about it, and it's kind of like pulling a wagon. There was one time that I was babysitting 2 little kids, and we were pulling the wagon, going steady, and that wasn't enough for them. They wanted me to run down the hill with the wagon. And at the end, I crashed and burned, and these 2 little boys fell out of the wagon, and it was awful. So we want to keep a steady pace, and we do not want to run downhill with the wagon. To find a good rate of speaking, my old public speaking book says that the normal rate of speech, just if I'm talking to you, is between 120 to 150 words per minute. But when you're speaking in public, especially for people that like to talk fast like me, you need to keep it right around 120, so on the lower end, so that people can listen to the information that you haven't digested. You also don't want to go too slow or too fast. You want to use variance, and the same book, O'Hare and colleagues say that a slow rate at the right time indicates thoughtfulness, seriousness, solemnity, and the like. And a lively pace indicates excitement, adventure, happiness, and so on. Speaking too fast will cause listeners to perceive you as tentative about your control of the situation, and we've talked about that a lot in class as well. Now, practice and preparation, those are aspects that we need to use all throughout our public speeches, no matter what we're doing. Pauses are very relevant to just the filler terms, and Professor Clausen has told us over and over again, don't be afraid to pause. It will really add to your speech, and it will make you so that you don't use those filler terms. The same in the guidebook, O'Hare, Stewart, and Rubenstein state that many novice speakers are uncomfortable with pauses. Like we've talked about several times, we want to cover those up, so we say, just like. However, pauses enhance meaning by providing a type of punctuation, emphasizing a point, drawing attention to a key thought, or just allowing listeners a moment to contemplate what is being said. In short, they make a speech far more effective than it might otherwise be. Now, as I've said, simply avoiding these filler terms won't take our speech over the top. We need to really utilize the power of the spoken word. So, the power of speech and the power of simplicity are included in the spoken word. Within the power of speech, we want to use an active voice. An active voice allows our message to be clear and assertive. Instead of the passive, a test was announced by Ms. Carlos for Tuesday. Say, Ms. Carlos announced a test for Tuesday. Or another example, a president was elected by voters every 4 years. Instead of the voters, or in place of, the voters elect a president every 4 years. The active terms allow your audience to be more engrossed. It's a more, if you're persuading somebody, you want to be active. And those were both examples from the Speaker's Guidebook. Another strategy is to avoid hedges, and those are defined as unnecessary words and phrases that qualify or introduce doubt into statements that should be straightforward. So like our research papers, like our essays, we don't want to say, well, I think that this is going to happen, or in my opinion, or I don't know if I'm right, but we don't want to say that. I've found that I can make my teachers think that I am more powerful if I just allow myself that power. And the same is true with public speaking. There's a lot of differences, but that is one thing that remains constant. The Power of Simplicity, Richard Dawes wrote a book called The Lost Art of the Great Speech, How to Write It, How to Present It. And we have many words at our command, but he says using the language well in a speech often means using the strong, simple words that compose our everyday language. And a bad example that I thought of was my father's dissertation. It's kind of a joke in our household that he just talks too much like an academic, which he is. And it was presented to the chemical engineering department at BYU. It's entitled, The Prediction of Mixture Excess Properties for Molecular Dynamics Simulations. Just the title is a mouthful, and I'm sure that you guys don't want to continue listening to what's inside of the book. However, I'll give you a short example. The application of MD simulations to the prediction of real fluid mixture excess properties was also investigated. 2 binary fluid systems were studied in this work, CO2 neopentane and CO2 SnCl4. Neopentane and SnCl4 were both modeled as spherical LJ fluids, while CO2 was modeled as both a spherical, single-site LJ fluid and a linear model consisting of 2 distinct LJ sites. I'm sure that I lost all of you. That might be appropriate at a chemical engineering conference. However, being communication students, the jargon was unacceptable, really. And instead, the short words. A great example of this is from Richard Dawes. He says, short words can make us feel good. They can run and jump and dance and soar high in the clouds. They can kill the chill of a cold night and help us keep our cool on a hot day. They fill our hearts with joy, but they can bring tears to our eyes as well. And if you notice, that's only 1 syllable in each word. He goes on to say that good writers and speakers know the power and grace and eloquence of simplicity. In conclusion, we want to avoid fillers and utilize the power of speech. We can use these. Most of us have 2 speeches left. Adam might have 1. If not, you can use it later. And they can really improve your public speaking. Like our wagon example, don't run down the hill. People are always watching you when you're speaking in public, and they will see it, and they will feel you crash and burn.